Hey everyone, welcome. Dave Brannen here. Today we're going to be talking about the disability tax credit. I'm going to take you through step by step in a basic way how to apply for the disability tax credit, also referred to as the DTC. This tax credit can be worth thousands of dollars if you are able to qualify for it. It can also qualify you for the Canada Disability Benefit. Now, getting approved can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but the form is actually quite straightforward, so we're going to take a look at it. Let me get my presentation up here. Here we go. So let's go through this. So first of all, what is the disability tax credit? It is a non-fundable tax credit. It's meant to reduce the amount of income tax that people with serious long-term impairments or their family members might have to pay. Now, you don't need to be on CPP disability or to be disabled to the point that you have to use a wheelchair in order to qualify. It is not based on your diagnosis also. It's based on how your condition affects your daily life, how your medical condition affects your daily life. Similar to CPP, there is a severe and prolonged aspect to the disability tax credit. However, the disability tax credit defines severe in a different way. Severe in the context of the disability tax credit is defined as markedly restricted, which means you're either unable to take or you're unable to do something or you take an inordinate amount of time to perform it. These would be daily activities like walking, feeding, dressing, or even concentrating and mental activities. Now, like CPP disability, the disability tax credit also requires that your condition to be prolonged. And in the context of the disability tax credit, prolonged means expected to last 12 months or more. So it's also the prolonged aspect is different from CPP disability. Here it just needs to be last for 12 months or more, whereas with CPP disability, it needs to be almost permanent. All right. Now, both CPP disability and the tax credit, like I said, they both use the term severe and prolonged, but it is a little bit different in each. So it's important to keep that distinction in mind. Now, the first thing you want to do is get the application form, and I'm going to look at it here in a second, but it's the T2201 is the actual form that you need to fill out. You can fill this out directly on the Revenue Canada website, or you can download it, a PDF copy, and then submit it There's two parts to it. Part A you complete, and part B is completed by the doctor. So in terms of these two parts, yeah, I won't look at the form right yet. Just in general, the part you fill out, it's just your personal details and things, so nothing that difficult for you to fill out. The second part, part B, is what the doctor fills out. That is the most important part of the form. It can be filled out by a doctor or a licensed medical practitioner who can be a psychologist, a specialist, a nurse practitioner, a physiotherapist, a psychologist, or an occupational therapist, depending on the type of disability that you're claiming. It's important, whatever professional you use, medical professional you use to fill out this form, that they do so in a thorough manner and make sure that they are focusing on your limits on how your disability affects your ability to function. And it's not enough for them just to rely on your diagnosis. Now, the way the form is written, it really forces the health provider to make declarative statements that are either going to put you yes for the benefit or no. This form used to be more subjective in that the question was more open-ended, and then Revenue Canada would have to interpret how your doctor is describing your disability as whether or not it would meet the criteria for severe and prolonged. However, the way the form is written now, they are forcing your doctor or medical professional to give an opinion of yes, it does meet these criteria, or no, it doesn't. So that it is very black and white at this point in terms of they're forcing your provider to make these declarative statements. The good part of this is that if your provider clicks the yes side of it and Revenue Canada agrees with that, then you'll be approved. The bad part is if they click the no side of it, either knowingly or unknowingly, they may not realize that it will have this effect, but it will mean that you will not be approved because they are directly stating that you do not meet the criteria. Okay. Let's just finish going through this and then we'll go look at the form itself. So, okay. So you want to, sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. So then you want to move on to submitting your application to CRA. Both parts get sent in. You can mail it to, you can mail it in, or you can just upload it electronically through using your my CRA account, actually. Now, they're reporting that it takes 8 to 12 weeks to review and approve or deny the application, but it can take longer. And it's also not uncommon for them to reach out to you asking for more information. So don't panic if they do reach out to you for more information. They may want additional medical records from your doctor, or they may just need you to clarify something about your details. You will then get a decision whether or not it's been approved or denied from a CRA. If approved, you can start claiming the disability tax credit on your taxes. You or a family member. You will get a letter sent confirming that it has been approved, and it will tell you until when. They will also reassess you up to 10 years of your previous taxes to determine if there's any refund owing to you. So retroactive credits can result in hundreds of thousands, or not hundreds of thousands, can result in thousands of dollars in refunds. Now, if you're denied, there is a process for you to submit more information. You can file a formal objection within 90 days, and you can escalate that up into to the Tax Court of Canada if you need to appeal the claim. Okay, so some tips and pitfalls here. So common pitfalls would be assuming your doctor knows how to fill out this form. Now, many doctors will, but if you can gently give them some guidance without putting it all in writing to them, that can help. It's important that they use clear examples. If they're asked to give examples of your limitations, they should focus on the disabling limitations and not just try to rely on your diagnosis. And yeah, I mean, they need to be honest and accurate about the limitations. That kind of goes without saying. And if when in doubt, just there are professionals who will help you fill out these forms. All right. Now, if you have questions about this or some other issues, you can contact us for free consultations. Our link for doing that is down in the description. And also, you can also bring your questions here. Now, I'm going to take a quick look at the form itself, and we do have a question that's already come in. But let me just look at the form here. So I'm going to go down here so we can just take a look at what it looks like. All right, here we go. So this is the actual form. Let me share my screen. There we go. So this is the form. So we did have a question here. This was from Margaret. She's asking, do you offer a service to assist filling this out? Do you have doctors to review and sign the document? How much for this? We do not offer to fill this out for people. That's not a service that we do here at Resolute Legal. Where we come in is if people get to the Tax Court of Canada and need to appeal at that level, then that's when we get involved. There are other agencies and private groups in Canada that will represent people in filling out the application and things like that. I'd also encourage you to attempt to just do it on your own and have your doctor fill it out. But there are different groups in Canada that will represent people in filling out the disability tax credit, but it's not something we do at the firm. We get involved only at the appeal step. All right. Whoops, I got the wrong page here. Let's go try that again. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So let's try this one more time. Oh boy. There it is. Yeah, that's better. Okay, this is the actual form here. So you can see, I remember I talked about Part A. This is what you fill in: last name, first name, last name, city, social insurance. Now, so this is tell us about the person with the disability. So that would be if you're applying for yourself, you'd fill it in. Now, if the person who's going to be claiming the tax credit is not the person with the disability, it's going to be someone in their family, a supporting family member, you'd put that person's name here. So that could be your spouse. It could be they got all the different things here: brother, sister, uncle. These are all the other people that can benefit from your disability tax credit. So you would just fill that in there. All right. Now, in order for someone else to get your disability tax credit, they have to be providing you with the necessities of life. So you would have to indicate which necessities of life. Is it food? Is it shelter or clothing? Now, if you're living with someone, usually it's going to be food and shelter. It's going to be the big ones, but also clothing sometimes too. All right. So that's where you'd fill that out and sign it. Then down below here, actually, is that? Yeah. So this is also part of Part A, where you would fill this out as well. Are you claiming previous tax years? You'll want to do this if the disability started in the past. And yes, click yes for them to adjust your returns. That way they'll automatically assess it to determine if there's going to be a refund or not. Here's Part B. This is the trickier part where we get into that the medical professional is going to fill out. You will see that it goes through. Some of these will just not apply to you. And so that's fine. They just will put not applicable. And so vision, like impairment, if you have significant impairment with vision, then that obviously can be a reason for you to be approved. But for a lot of people, that's not going to matter. So you need to be markedly restricted with vision in order to be approved. And you can see here, does your patient meet at least one of the following criteria on both eyes? Visual acuity is 2200 or less. Yes or no. So basically, that's what you have to have that level of vision in order to qualify, and it has to be going to be continuous for 12 months or more. That would get you qualified. Next area you could be qualified for, again, you don't have to get all of these. These are just different areas. You could qualify if you have a marked restriction with speaking. And then here's the question. So this is the question. If your doctor says yes, then you qualify. If no, then you don't. Is your patient unable to speak, or do they take an inordinate amount of time to speak, at least 3 times longer? So there you go. That's what they've changed with these forms. They have this statement here. If your doctor puts yes, then you would meet the criteria. If no, then you do not. Hearing, same idea. Here's the key question right here. Your doctor needs to say yes if you're going to be claiming a marked disability with hearing. Walking is a very common one. This is one of the most common ones that, at least that I see anyway. Doesn't mean this is the most common overall, but it's one of the most common I see. And here's the question right here. It has to be clicked yes if you're going to be approved for walking. Is your patient unable to walk, or do they take an inordinate amount of time to walk, at least, which is 3 times longer than normal, a short distance such as 100 meters, even with appropriate therapy, medication, and devices? So if you take an inordinate amount of time to walk 100 meters, then you can qualify for the disability tax credit. But your doctor or physiotherapist who's filling this out would need to put yes here. And they would need to say that it's like this substantially all of the time and is expected to last 12 months or more. If they click yes to all these 3 things, then you could be approved for the disability tax credit for walking. Eliminating, so this would be bowel and bladder. And again, it would be if you are unable to personally manage those by yourself, that is when you could be approved for the disability tax credit. Feeding is literally feeding yourself. So if you are unable to feed yourselves, or you take an inordinate amount of time to do so, then you could qualify for the disability tax credit. So you'd have to have some significant motor problems with your arms and hands and coordination in order to be unable to feed yourself. So it's quite a high level of disability on that one. Dressing is same thing. If you're basically unable to dress yourself, you need other people to help with that, or that you would take so much time that it, like, again, you're taking 3 times as long as someone who doesn't have an impairment to dress yourself, then you could qualify under dressing. But that's going to be a hard one. A lot of people are not going to meet that level of disability. This is another area where a lot of people will get qualified, is mental functions necessary for everyday life. So you can see people get qualified here. This is for your doctor to fill out. Now this you can see they say it can be a doctor, nurse practitioner, or psychologist can fill out this form. You can see all the different limitations and things they ask them to go over. But ultimately, here's the question that matters. So what they're doing is, this is more or less, they get all this information filled out, and then they ask this question. This is number 7 is the key question, but they will compare the answer here. Like if you put yes here, but all of these up here say no limitations or some limitations, then they may cry foul and say, look, this is not correct. You would need to have some severe limitations with a lot of these things in order to meet this criteria down here. Is your patient unable to, or do they take an inordinate amount of time to perform mental functions necessary for everyday life? But a lot of people will meet this, especially if you are having severe mental health issues. Now, the question of this is though, it's not only that you have this, it has to be present substantially all of the time, and it has lasted or is expected to last a continuous period of 12 months or more. This is often where it's hard, it will often be no here, because sometimes people have mental health issues that come and go, but they're not going to last 12 months or more. So this is another one. You would need to have all 3 of these yes in order to be approved. Now, there is kind of another way you can be approved for the disability tax credit. Sometimes if you can't get all, maybe some of these are a no, But if you have a couple of them where there are significant impairments, so you don't meet the criteria for, you don't meet the criteria. Let me get the wording of it right. Markedly restricted. I always forget that. So you're not meeting the markedly restricted criteria. You can still have this idea that you have a cumulative effect. So you, in one or more of these areas, if you have, let's say you have an issue with walking and mental functions or whatever, if both of these, you on each of them alone, you would not meet the criteria, but they're both still quite serious, then there can be a cumulative effect where the cumulative effect of both of these together would cause you to have overall a marked restriction. This will be a way that a lot of people will qualify when they have two or more of these areas that accumulate together. So that is something to point out to your doctor if they're not aware of that maybe you do have two or more of these that, while not on their own markedly restricted, they're serious enough that when you combine them all together, they constitute a marked restriction overall. Another one that people will qualify for is life-sustaining therapy. So this is where this one's pretty, if you have this, it's quite easy to get approved. It's based on, these are the type of medical conditions like insulin pumps, hemodialysis. If you're getting therapy for X amount of hours per week, then you can certainly be approved. Okay. And this is the certification here that the doctor must give in order to confirm that the information is correct and all that kind of thing. So that's basically it. That's an overview of the form. If anyone has any questions, let me know. But that's it. It's a very basic form, much more straightforward than the CPP disability application. And this application for the disability tax credit is now the way that you get the Canada Disability benefit. So it is the gatekeeping. It's the gatekeeper for sure. All right, let's take a look at the form. We've been out for a few days here, so there's probably some questions in here to go over. Let's go on and take a look. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot. There's not really a whole lot on here, but we'll still go take a peek. You guys can help me answer these questions. Let's have a look here. Here we go. So this is the forum where we answered questions about disability. Somebody commented on this. All right, so this is a long-running conversation. We've gone over it before if you've attended, but basically this person wanted to know, once their child turns 18 and they're getting CPP disability, the money now gets paid directly to the child. And what this person wanted to know is, can my insurance company still deduct the money for CPP disability going to the child, even though it's going to the child and not coming to me directly? People have given different opinions. Joanne chimed in and said, really, it depends on how your contract is worded with LTD. And that's what I agreed with. Buckets chimed in and said, the policy needs to explicitly state the CPP child portion is offset for being deducted from your LTD payment. Also, the LTD child portion is legally, according to both Service Canada and Canada Revenue Agency, is the child's income and can't be used in an all-source calculation unless that clause actually states CPP disability payments. I pretty much agree with that. It depends, though. Like, it depends. It sometimes, the way it can be worded, if the wording of the contract is such that it includes all types of CPP disability, it may not need to directly state the child portion if it's an all-encompassing definition. But I agree, in most cases, you're going to want to see the CPP disability child payment specified in there if the insurer is going to want to rely on it. But it may not be as clear-cut as that in all cases. Sometimes there's broader definitions that could include it, and that will be enough. All right. Calculating CPP after age 65. Okay, yeah, that's not really my wheelhouse. How to calculate it. Yeah. So I'm not even going to weigh in on that. No idea how to calculate the CPP. Well, I could probably try to figure it out like anyone else, but there's formulas and stuff in there, so I don't really want to weigh in on that. All right. All right, no questions. I can't believe there's no questions on the... Okay, this one I answered. No, nobody came back on that one. All right. Anybody watching have any questions? Could be about anything to do with disability. I don't think there's anything else new that's come up. I had a busy day today. I barely had a break all day. Just back to back to back to back appointments. People dealing with different issues. Okay, just give me 1 second here. One of the issues that came up today was when can we have a new client where this person signed a release and they accepted an employment termination severance offer and signed a release, and we took the person's case on because they thought they made a mistake. So there are limited circumstances where if you do sign a release, a lawyer like me, like our firm, can get it undone, basically get the court to set it aside. Not always, but there have to be certain circumstances there. But we thought this was a case where we could do that. There were some technical problems with the way the employer structured the offer. And there was also issues around basically the person being under duress when they signed it and the employer taking advantage of a situation where they knew someone was kind of in a mental health crisis. So it's not always going to be the case that you can get these releases thrown out, but you can. We think this is a case where we have a good chance to do that. So that's what we're going to try to do. We have to get the release thrown out because the person accepted a pretty bad deal for a severance payment. If we can't get the release thrown out, then there's no more compensation we can get for them. If we can get the release thrown out, then there's a significant amount of more compensation we could get for the person. So in a case like this, what you do is you would meet with a client, you do your analysis on it. You would then write a demand letter to the employer saying that we're representing them. We feel like we believe this was a wrongful termination. This release is not legally valid for these reasons. And then we basically make a settlement offer to the employer, invite them to enter negotiations. If the employer does not enter negotiations, then we look at filing the lawsuit against them or a human rights complaint, or both, depending on what the situation is. Another thing I was dealing with today was advising a person on, they were wanting to move from their current province to another province. So I spoke to the person about that. Really, there's no problems with moving. This person was on approved CPP LTD. They also wanted to know about basically what their options were for trying to return to work, maybe doing some volunteer work. So we discussed all the pros and cons of all that. Basically, the short answer to that is I personally encourage people who are on long-term disability to try to do as much as you can, to try to get volunteer work. The things you need to keep aware of is that if you start earning more than as of this year, 2025, if you earn $7,100 or more, you have to report it to CPP. And really, if you're earning any amount of money, you should be reporting it to your long-term disability insurer. Both LTD and CPP contracts allow people to earn small amounts of money and still maintain their benefits. The only question will be whether the LTD insurer will offset whatever you earn. So you may not be getting further ahead financially because the LTD insurer may just be able to deduct dollar for dollar what you earn, but it still can be good for your mental health to be out there doing work, even though it's not necessarily going to get you financially further ahead. Now, sometimes, depending on the wording of your policy, you will get financially further ahead because the LTD policies will allow you to earn a certain amount of money before they start deducting it from what they pay you. The danger in these situations, and the person asked me if this was a common concern, and I said it certainly was a common concern, that you are just afraid to rock the boat if you are on long-term disability and do any type of work at all. What if the insurer just up and just cuts you off? Um, that's always a risk that can happen, and certainly I've seen insurers be very unforgiving on that and almost unreasonable. If an insurer does that, you do have the right to appeal it and, if necessary, sue them. Obviously, that is not an ideal situation. You don't want to be in a situation where you're having to sue insurance companies and in the meantime have no money coming in. So I completely get why that is, even though in theory the insurance companies are supposed to keep paying you. You don't Some people just can't take the risk at all. So just keep that in mind. Now, there was another case I was looking at today that I thought was pretty interesting. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I was maybe even the person's on the maybe even be watching right now, but I did talk to someone about what it means to do your they have an annual form to fill out for the LTD insurer, where an annual update form. So I looked at the form for the person. That's not something I normally do, just to warn people. I don't typically do that, but this person had been a longtime supporter of our all of our efforts here. So I did make an exception to review it with them. So I did review their form. They did a great job in filling it out, and they were quite thorough in filling out the form. But this was a form where it was just a general annual kind of an annual update form. It was not like an activity questionnaire or anything like that. So I did not think the person should have a lot of concerns about filling that form out, but they did quite a thorough job. So just keep that in mind. I know those forms are very stressful for people, and most people have questions about how to do it properly. Okay. I had some good news. Got some good news on Friday. A recent CPP Disability Tribunal I had did. The client got approved. It was a very difficult case. I thought it was on the border if we were going to win or not, but we did end up winning, and I was pretty pleased with that. So we got news of that late last week. So we notified the client. So how we find out is I'm sitting here one day and I get an email. So we do the hearing, and then it can take up to 30 days. But just out of the blue, someday I get an email from the tribunal and it will attach the decision. So you're just sort of like clicking on the decision to see, just to see what the result was. But yeah, it was a luckily, they now say pretty quickly in the first few sentences, approved or not approved. Before you had to like read through this thing trying to figure out, well, what is the answer? It's almost like a mystery novel. They've stopped doing that and they now say at the beginning, approved or not approved. But very happy for that person. It was a very tricky case. I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm not going to post it up here, but just to tell you a little bit about the case, let me see if I can find it. Let me find it. Client was delighted. See if I can find it here. Oops. Hmm. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Yeah. So this is what yeah, I can't show this because it's got the person's information on it, but basically I get an email that says decision. And so it says Social Security Tribunal appeal, then it gives the number of the case and it says decision. So you're always like, oh no, well, let me look at this, but I'm going to open it here. Let me just take a look at it. Yeah, so this was a hearing done on, does it say when we did the hearing? Yeah, the hearing was on June 25th. So the hearing was on June 25th and the decision came out July 22nd. Okay, so maybe it's a little more than a week ago that it came in. I thought it came in last week. When was July 22nd? When was that? Yeah, it came in last week. Yeah. So we got it on the 23rd or 24th. It came in. Let me go have a look at it here. I'm just looking at the decision. So what they send us is an actual decision. Again, I won't show it because it has my client's personal information. She has not told me whether I could reveal this or not. These decisions, so we get the full decision in. Not all of these decisions get published. Let me go check right now and see if this one's even published. I bet it's not. I doubt it's published. They don't publish every decision for whatever reason. Is it published? Probably not. No. What is going on here? Yeah, it's not published at all. So what was unique about this case? The person was pretty young, so in their mid 30s, which makes it a different type of case. Um, yeah, and part of the issue. So what was interesting? This was a real delightful client, honestly. Um, so this was someone who struggled a lot. I might even have mentioned this case last week. I think I can't recall, but one of the things with this person was they had struggled a long time to be in the workforce and really were in and out of the workforce a lot. They had held a job for quite a while, but it was because it was one of these situations where it was what's called, for CPP purposes, they call it a benevolent employer. So it's the type of employer where it's recognized that if this was a normal workplace, you would not have been able to stay at that job. So benevolent employers are the types where they will go beyond what a normal employer would do in the competitive workplace to allow someone to stay. And the courts, the CPP will recognize that as being a situation where that you can still be disabled even though you were working because this is not a normal working situation. I've won a bunch of these benevolent employer cases, honestly. The first one that I won, I was quite shocked because I didn't think that that type of argument would be accepted, even though in theory I know it would. You just wonder, like in practice, is a judge actually going to accept that? But they do. In this case, they accepted that this client of mine was able to work for a number of years, but it was a benevolent employment situation. So it was not indicative that, so even during that time of employment over a few years, this person still had a severe and prolonged disability because it was a benevolent employment situation. In that situation, the employer allowed this person to work even though 9 out of 10 employers would have let her go because of inability to do the work appropriately. But this employer, for reasons I won't say, Nothing, there's nothing bad or anything, but I just don't want to give away information that could identify the client. So for whatever reasons, the employer was benevolent and allowed the person to stay, but the court did not hold that against the person. After that job, which was very helpful. So this was one of the reasons this case was successful was because, first of all, the client was very believable and a sweet person. So that went a long way. It was still a very difficult case, but the person also tried another job. So after the benevolent employment job, tried another job and really only lasted a week or two and was fired basically for being unable to do the job. And that showed like the court is always looking for efforts to stay in the workforce, and that went a long way, I believe. Well, I don't believe, I know it did because I have the court decision here. Let's have to see what was the yeah. Trying to think when the MQP was on this case. Okay, yeah. So this person's MQP. This was an older case, so this was dating back. We proved that the disability was back in 2022. I've had a few cases. The last two tribunal hearings I've done are going to be they were very difficult cases. So the last three, this was this one was difficult, and then there's two more coming down. I just got my fingers crossed because they are all very difficult cases. So we will have to, hopefully these will get approved. All right. Oh, we got a congrats here. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. It was always good. It always feels good to get to win these cases. I feel good about it. I know my clients feel good about it. But yeah, it's why I really enjoy CPP disability, because it is oftentimes when we're representing somebody, it is like the last chance. We don't do a lot of applications and things. We encourage people to do that themselves. So by the time we usually get involved, people have done what they can do and it's still not working. So we're kind of the last hope. And so it does feel good to win some of these cases. But again, not every case is winnable. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, unfortunately. A lot of the ones I've done, the last couple cases I've done, they're very old. Like one of them, we had to prove disability back to 2014 or something, or not, yeah, 2014. So almost 10 years ago. It is 10 years ago, not almost, over 10 years ago. So those cases are extremely difficult because you have to work with whatever medical evidence you can find that goes back that far. So that often leaves you in a situation where there's not the medical. You can't have a doctor give an opinion because the opinion would have to relate to someone's condition 10 years ago. So it is very difficult to prove that disability back then. All right. I'm going to end it there for today. Wish you guys all the best. We'll be back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, talking on something else. What am I talking about tomorrow? Let me go see if I can find it. Tomorrow I am talking about, oh yeah, cognitive behavioral. What am I talking about tomorrow? CBD. Oh, right. CBD. I was misreading that. So CBD is a type of cannabis. Is it available is treatment in disability claims. Will different disabilities insurers accept those claims? Will they deny them? That's what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. Interesting. I don't always get the topics till like the day before. Anyway, folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow. I wish you all the best. Take care.